For decades, they built lives in the United States, raising families and contributing to their communities. But now, due to what the U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, or ICE, calls small mistakes, many, including long-term Cuban residents, find themselves abruptly deported to Mexico, stranded without papers or prospects. Take Rolando, Chirino, and Luis. Every day, these three Cuban men, along with hundreds of other migrants, gather in the main square of Tapachula, Mexico, dreaming of their chosen homeland, the United States. Chirino misses his grandson in Miami. He arrived in 1980 and worked for 40 years as an electrician. Luis is furious he no longer receives his monthly pension of $2,200. He fled to Miami with his father in 1966 and ran his own gas station. Rolando had lived in Florida since 1995, and his 5 children now run the air conditioning business he founded. All three had escaped socialism in Cuba and established thriving lives in the United States. Yet all three made a minor mistake that became their undoing. ICE, an agency that has faced months of criticism for its brutal tactics against migrants, visited them at their workplaces or summoned them to authorities. Rolando was caught smoking marijuana in a park 30 years ago. Luis had a traffic violation. Chirino had a previous conviction for drug-related offenses. Following their apprehension by ICE, they endured months in deportation centers where their papers were confiscated. Then came the transfer to Mexico and a days-long bus journey from the northern border to the country's deep south. These often brutal deportations have drastically altered the lives of many migrants in the United States, sparking widespread fear. Mexico is classified by the U.S. as a safe third country and is a primary destination for migrants deported from the United States. An agreement made under the previous administration of Joe Biden stipulated that Mexico would accept up to 30,000 people monthly. Unlike in the time of the Biden administration, today, few migrants from other Latin American countries are illegally crossing the Mexican border, only to be immediately sent back to their home countries by Mexico. Now, the overwhelming majority arriving in Mexico are migrants deported from the United States. These deported individuals are often brought to cities like Tapachula. This city, in Mexico's far south, borders Guatemala. For years, Tapachula was a bottleneck for migration from Central America, a transit zone where few migrants stayed long. Today, it is different. Those stranded here are forbidden from leaving the city. Rolando, who longs to move to the tourist coastal town of Cancun, which he calls the Miami of Mexico, explains, "If I leave Tapachula, they arrest me and deport me to Guatemala after 72 hours. He calls Tapachula a prison, citing the lack of work. There are no official figures on how many migrants are currently enduring these conditions in Tapachula. An inquiry by the ARD, a German public broadcaster, to the Mexican government and immigration authorities remained unanswered. Human rights experts estimate more than 30,000 people are stuck there, alongside the city's 400,000 residents. All of them lack their identification papers confiscated after their detention by ICE. Here, at their deportation destination, they must apply for asylum and obtain humanitarian visas. But, as Luis GarcA-a Villagran, a human rights lawyer who has assisted migrants in the area for 15 years, criticizes, there are only 7 caseworkers for refugee matters in Tapachula. Villagran states, President Trump's wall is not in northern Mexico. The wall is here. In Tapachula, they find themselves in a kind of no man's land. Many are effectively stateless, he adds. He is now filing constitutional complaints with migrants and other lawyers, hoping judges will prevent the detention and deportations from Mexico that threaten people upon leaving their arrival points. He also fights for their freedom of movement within Mexico. When asked about the conditions on the ground, the Mexican government again offered no response. The International Organization for Migration, IOM, however, sees an urgent need for action. Without government programs for work, housing, and legal support, many deportees face a permanent life in limbo, according to a recent analysis. This stagnation occurs in places that offer them little economic opportunity. Tapachula is among Mexico's poorest cities. The migrants' desperation is exploited. They consistently report working 12 hours of undeclared labor for about 10 euros. Without papers, almost nothing is possible. They cannot fight for their rights, accept legal work, or leave the city. They cannot even access money sent by their families in the United States. Luis explains, "I have to find someone with a passport and give that person 10 to 20% so they can withdraw my money." He shares an overpriced room with 5 other Cubans. Chirino had heart surgery in the United States and suffers from Parkinson's disease. Without papers, he cannot obtain his essential medications. "I need them for my high blood pressure," he says. Like many others, the 77-year-old sleeps on the street. "I don't want to die here," Chirino pleads. Many migrants can no longer tolerate this hopeless situation. A few days ago, a caravan of about 1,000 people, predominantly Haitians and Cubans, set off from Tapachula. They began their journey north after sunset when the heat had subsided, carrying their few belongings. One participant told the Mexican daily newspaper La Jornada, "We don't know what else to do and have no resources left. The immigration authority in Tapachula has lied to us too many times. They promise us a process, but nothing ever comes of it. They just tell us to wait, wait. They do not know if they will make it back to their adopted homeland, the United States. They walk as far as they can, just to escape the hopelessness of Tapachula." This tragic situation underscores the ongoing challenges at the US-Mexico border and the human cost of current immigration policies. This is a developing story, and we will continue to monitor the situation for any new developments. What's your take on US deportations trap elderly Cubans in Mexican limbo? Share your view in the comments. Do you think this will matter in the next news cycle? This video was generated using artificial intelligence.